Imagine this, you are 63 years old. You have been grinding for 4 decades. You have saved, sacrificed, skipped vacations, maxed out your 401k every single year since you were 29. And now, finally, you are done. You walk out of your office on a Friday afternoon with a box of personal items and a retirement cake that Karen from accounting ordered from Costco. You drive home. You sit in your driveway for a minute. You breathe. You have $1.2 million in your retirement accounts. You have Social Security kicking in at 65. You have a plan. You have a spreadsheet. You did everything right. And then the market drops 30% in your first 14 months of retirement. Your portfolio goes from 1.2 million to about 840,000, but you still need to eat. You still need to pay the mortgage. You still need health insurance for the next 2 years until Medicare kicks in. So you pull out $60,000 to live on. Now your portfolio is down to 780,000. The market recovers 18 months later, goes back up 30%. But 30% of 780,000 is not the same as 30% of 1.2 million. Your portfolio claws back to just over $1 million. You are still underwater, and you have been withdrawing the whole time. 3 years into retirement, you have less money than someone who retired with the exact same portfolio, the exact same withdrawal rate, and the exact same average returns, but who simply got lucky with the timing. Same discipline, same savings, same average performance, completely different outcome. One person is fine, the other is staring at a spreadsheet at 2 in the morning wondering if they need to go back to work at 66. This is not a hypothetical. This is the most dangerous and least discussed risk in all of personal finance, and it has a name. It is called sequence of returns risk. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible traps that separate people who retire comfortably from people who retire and then quietly run out of money. If you are within 10 years of retirement, or if you have recently retired and your portfolio feels more fragile than you expected, this conversation is going to change how you think about everything. Because here is the truth that no retirement calculator will ever tell you. The first 5 years of your retirement are not just important, they are everything. Let me explain why. When you are saving for retirement, the order of your investment returns does not matter. You are only adding money. The sequence is irrelevant. But the moment you stop depositing and start withdrawing, everything changes. Now the sequence of your returns is the single most important variable in your financial life. More important than your average return. More important than your asset allocation. Imagine 2 people. Both retire with $1 million. Both withdraw $50,000 per year. Both experience an average annual return of 6% over their entire retirement. Identical in every measurable way. But person A gets hit with 2 years of negative 15% returns right at the start. Person B gets the same negative returns near the end. Same average, same total returns, same withdrawal rate. Person A runs out of money years before person B. We are not talking about a minor difference. We are talking about one person living comfortably until 92 and the other person broke by 78. That is sequence of returns risk. It is the financial equivalent of stepping onto a tightrope during an earthquake. The tightrope itself is fine. You have practiced. You are skilled. But the timing of the shaking determines whether you make it across or fall. Research from Morningstar examined thousands of simulated retirement scenarios, and they found that nearly 70% of all retirement failures involved portfolios that had lost value within the first 5 years. 7 out of 10 people who ran out of money had their fate essentially sealed before their 5th anniversary of retirement. But if you made it through those 5 years with positive returns, your chance of running out of money dropped to roughly 4%. That means surviving the fragile window pushes your odds of success to 96%. MIT researchers estimated that 77% of your final retirement outcome can be explained by the average return during just the first 10 years, not your 30-year return, the first decade. That is where the war is won or lost. So why does nobody talk about this? Because the financial industry sells accumulation. It sells the dream of the number. Hit your number and you are free. Every commercial shows a couple walking on a beach. Every calculator tells you to save more, invest more, compound more. And then one day you hit the number and the industry waves goodbye. But they do not sell the transition. They do not tell you that crossing the finish line is actually the starting gate of a completely different race. One where the rules have changed and the thing that kept you safe for decades' time is now working against you. Now let me destroy another sacred cow. The 4% rule. Withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year 1, adjust for inflation every year after, and your money should last 30 years. It came from Bill Bengen in 1994 and the Trinity study. For decades, it was gospel. Here is the problem. When Bengen published his research, the 10-year Treasury bond was yielding over 5%. A balanced portfolio's bond half alone was generating meaningful income. Today, the S&P 500 CAPE ratio hovers around 31, nearly double the historical average. When starting valuations are high, forward returns tend to be lower. Morningstar's updated analysis recommended a safe withdrawal rate of 3.7%, not 4%. On a $1 million portfolio, that gap is $3,000 less every year for the rest of your life. Over 30 years, almost $100,000. And if you retire early, say at 55 instead of 65, and you need your money to last 50 years, some researchers suggest the safe rate drops closer to 3% or even 2.5%. Bengen himself updated his number to 4.7% in 2025, based on broader diversification. Even the experts disagree. The point is not that 4% is wrong. The point is that treating it like an unbreakable law when it was always meant to be a rough guideline is dangerous, especially when sequence risk is lurking in those first critical years. And the 4% rule assumes you withdraw the same amount every year regardless of what the market is doing. It does not care if the market just dropped 40%. It tells you to pull out the same amount anyway. That rigidity amplifies sequence risk. You are forced to sell investments at their lowest, locking in losses your portfolio may never recover from. It is like a doctor prescribing the same medication whether you have a headache or a broken leg. Now let me talk about the psychology, which might be the most destructive force of all. You wake up on a Monday morning in retirement. You check your portfolio because you have nothing else to do. Your account is down 14% from last month. You feel a tightness in your chest. You tell yourself you are not going to panic. You know bear markets are temporary. You know all of this intellectually. But something is different now. When you were 45 and the market crashed, you shrugged. You had 20 years of contributions ahead. Crashes were buying opportunities. You were fearless because you had time. Now you are 64. You are not adding money anymore. You are taking it out. Every withdrawal during a downturn feels like ripping out a piece of the foundation. And here is the killer. You are right to be afraid. Every dollar pulled from a declining portfolio is a dollar that never participates in the recovery. It is gone, permanently diminished. Research from Hartford Funds showed that missing just the 10 best trading days in the S&P 500 over 30 years would have cut your total return by more than half. And many of those best days happened during or immediately after bear markets. The worst days and the best days cluster together. The retiree who panics and sells does not just miss the downturn, they miss the recovery. And that is permanent. There is no catching up. This creates a vicious cycle. The market drops. The retiree panics. They sell at the bottom or withdraw more than they should. The market recovers, but they are no longer fully invested. Their portfolio never gets back to where it was. The next downturn hits an already weakened portfolio, and the spiral accelerates. Bear markets come roughly every 3 to 6 years. If you are retired for 30 years, you will see 5, 6, maybe 7 of them. The retirees who survive are not the ones with the highest returns. They are the ones with a system that prevents panic. But there are more traps beyond the math. The first is what I call the celebration tax. You have been saving for decades. You have been denying yourself things for 40 years. And now, suddenly, every day is Saturday. You book Italy. You buy the boat. You renovate the kitchen. You help your daughter with the down payment on her house. You are 65 and healthy. And this is what the money was for, right? The financial industry calls this the go-go years, the first decade of retirement when people spend the most. And here is the brutal irony. The go-go years overlap almost perfectly with the period when portfolios are most vulnerable to sequence risk. You are spending the most during the exact window where every dollar withdrawn has the greatest long-term impact. The Bureau of Labor Statistics found that spending for adults 65 to 74 averages about $65,000 a year, then drops nearly 20% after 75. But by the time spending decreases, the damage from those early years may already be permanent. A study from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that only about half of retirees had enough resources to maintain their spending for just 5 consecutive years after retiring. Half. And roughly a third of retirees report spending more than they can realistically afford, not because they are reckless, because they misjudged how much freedom costs when it has to be funded by a finite pile of money instead of an infinite paycheck. The second trap is healthcare. Fidelity estimates that a 65-year-old retiring today needs approximately $172,000 to cover healthcare costs throughout retirement per person. A healthy couple between 65 and 74 spends about $13,000 a year on healthcare. By 85, that jumps to $40,000. Healthcare costs rise at roughly 1.5 to 2 times the rate of general inflation, and surveys show people underestimate these costs by more than 50%. When you underestimate your biggest variable expense by half during the most fragile window of your financial life, the consequences compound fast. The third trap is helping family. Your son needs help with student loans. Your daughter is going through a divorce. Your grandson needs tuition. Each feels like the right thing to do. Each pulls from a portfolio that cannot afford unplanned withdrawals during its most vulnerable years. Ask any financial advisor what the most common unplanned early retirement expense is, and many will tell you it is not healthcare. It is the kids. So what do? You know the risks. How do you build a system that protects you? Strategy 1. The bucket system. Divide your retirement money into 3 buckets. Bucket 1 holds 1 to 5 years of expenses in cash and short-term bonds, completely immune to market movements. This is your fortress. No matter what happens in the stock market, you know you can pay your bills for the next 3 to 5 years without selling a single share of anything. Bucket 2 holds 5 to 10 years of expenses in bonds and conservative funds. Not exciting, not aggressive, just steady and stable. When Bucket 1 runs low, you refill it from Bucket 2. Bucket 3 is your growth engine in equities, untouched for at least 10 years. It rides out every crash, every correction, every panic headline. It just sits there and compounds. When the market crashes, you live off Bucket 1. You do not sell anything. You do not make a single decision under pressure. The psychological shield of knowing your immediate expenses are covered is worth more than any asset allocation model ever built, because the real enemy in retirement is not bad returns. It is bad behavior triggered by bad returns. The bucket system removes the trigger. Strategy 2. The guardrails approach. Instead of withdrawing a fixed amount every year, you set a target rate with upper and lower guardrails. If your portfolio surges and your actual withdrawal rate drops below the lower guardrail, you give yourself a raise. You spend more because your portfolio can handle it. If your portfolio drops and your withdrawal rate rises above the upper guardrail, you take a temporary pay cut until things stabilize. Think of it like cruise control on a mountain highway. You set a speed, but when you hit a steep hill, you adjust. You do not drive the same speed up a cliff that you drive on flat ground. Morningstar found this approach provides the highest starting withdrawal rate of any strategy tested at 5.2%. That is 30% more income than a fixed withdrawal method. The trade-off is flexibility. You cut the cruise when the market is down. You delay the renovation. These are temporary adjustments that buy your portfolio time to recover. Dynamic strategies improve 50-year portfolio survival from roughly 80% to over 95%. Strategy 3. The bond tent. In the years leading up to retirement, gradually increase your bond allocation. Peak it right at retirement, maybe 50 or 60% bonds, then slowly shift back toward equities over the first 10 years. You are creating a tent shape with your bond allocation over time. High at the point of maximum vulnerability, lower before and after. This is counterintuitive. Most people think you should become more conservative over time in retirement, but the research suggests the opposite. You should be most conservative at the moment of retirement and then gradually become more aggressive as the sequence risk window closes. Because the danger is not at the end, the danger is at the beginning. Here is what you should do right now. If you are 5 to 10 years from retirement, start building your bond tent and your cash bucket now. Calculate your actual annual expenses, not a guess. Track every dollar for 3 months and annualize it. Add 20% for what you forgot. Add another 10% for healthcare if retiring before 65. If you have already retired, do an honest assessment right now. Check your actual withdrawal rate, not what you planned, what you have actually spent. If it is above 5% of your current portfolio value, make adjustments immediately. This is not alarmist. This is arithmetic. Build at least 2 years of expenses in cash or near cash equivalents, even if it means selling some equities while the market is up. A cash buffer purchased at market highs is infinitely better than forced selling during a crash. Consider delaying Social Security until 70 if you can. Each year you wait increases your benefit by roughly 8%, a guaranteed inflation-adjusted return that almost nothing else in the financial world can match. And stop checking your portfolio every day. Set a quarterly review 4 times a year. That is it. Let me bring this back to where we started. That person sitting in their driveway on their last day of work, holding a retirement cake and a dream. They did the hard part. They saved. they sacrificed, they earned the right to rest. But the game has changed, and the new game has different rules, different risks, and a different timeline for when mistakes become permanent. The first 5 years of retirement are not a victory lap. They are the most consequential financial period of your entire life. More wealth is made or destroyed in those 5 years than in any other stretch. And the difference between the retiree who thrives and the retiree who ends up looking for work at 68 is almost never about how much they saved. It is about what they did in the first 5 years after they stopped saving. Build your buckets, set your guardrails, construct your tent, control your spending. Have the hard conversation with your kids about what you can and cannot afford to give. Stop treating retirement as a finish line and start treating it as the opening chapter of the most important financial operation of your life. Because retirement is not the reward for decades of hard work. Retirement that lasts is the reward. And lasting requires a plan that accounts for the fact that the first 5 years will try to take everything from you. Do not let them. If this changed how you think about retirement, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more conversations like this, and leave a comment telling me where you are in your retirement journey, because I read every single one. I will see you in the next one.